Reading vlog time! Hey guys, what's up? It's Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, travel content when there's not a pandemic, and miscellaneous collection content. Today's video is going to be bookish content because I am rereading Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. So the reason I'm doing this is because there is a new book out, Midnight Sun. That should not be news to anyone. I'm going to make a vlog for each book. I don't know if I'm going to include the short Second Life of Brie Tanner or the illustrated guide. Let me know if you want me to do that. But I will also make a blog for Life and Death because I've actually never read that before. And I'll do one for Midnight Sun. And then once I finish reading the books, I will record myself watching the movies because I think movie reactions are fun. So I'm going to post a link down below along with some other causes, but the main cause I want to focus on is for the Quileute tribe. So Stephenie Meyer butchered their culture in these books. Also, they need to move to higher ground, so that's what if you can make a donation to them, that's where their money is going. If you can't make a donation, share the link to bring awareness to others. I haven't read this series since I was 12, and I've been wanting to reread it for a while because I just want to see if 23-year-old me will have the same opinion as 12-year-old me. Listen, 12-year-old me, I was sitting down in my 7th grade classroom taking the fucking ISAT test. We love standardized testing in America. If you were finished with the test early, you were told to take out a book and read it. That was how I got through this series because I would finish those exams so early that I would just have so much time to read these. And you know, since then I've learned how problematic the relationship actually is. I'm questioning what 12-year-old me saw in it. Being a very ignorant 12-year-old white girl, I had no idea how much damage Stephenie Meyer actually did to the Quileute tribe. So I just want to read the book again just to get a new sense for it and to not rely so much on the memory that is, you know, 11 years old at this point. 11 years old at this point. Like, I want a refreshed, proper memory so I can make the proper opinion. So let's get reading. It's probably going to be a weird time, but a fun time. Like, it's probably gonna be one of those books where, like, critically I'd give 1 out of 5, but because of pure enjoyment I'd give 5 out of 5. We've all read books similar to that, so that's probably what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a great time. You'll see that I have a bunch of folded pages because I used to fold down my favorite parts of the book. Most of them are from Alice and Jasper because that was my OTP. Anyway, Stan, Alice, and Jasper, that's the true ultimate couple of Twilight. And honestly, I remember at 12 years old not particularly liking Edward and Bella, and I think after a while the only reason I kept reading these books was for Alice and Jasper. So I'm 10 pages in, and I just wanted to make a few comments. First of all, Stephenie Meyer's writing is a lot better than I was expecting it to be, because I remember, like, after I finished The Host, and despite not liking The Chemist, that I can't believe I read in 2020, it feels like I read that years ago. Despite not liking it, I still thought her writing was exceptionally better than in the series. So I went into this thinking it was going to be worse, but it's not. Like, her writing style is mediocre, but it's very readable and it is enjoyable. It's not bad in the slightest. It's not great, but I definitely would not say it's the worst writing style I've ever read. Bella in 10 pages already has more of a personality than she does in the movies. Not a lot of personality, but more. I'm really confused why she moved to Forks in the first place. Like, that's never really discussed. She kind of just did it, and she's like, I hate Forks, and now I'm like, then why are you choosing to move there? Unless it's explained later, but I don't know. I'm confused. That's all I have to comment on so far. I know she meets the Cullens, or not meets them, but at least she, like, sees them walk in during this chapter, which I guess the plot kicks in right away. Because I don't remember her meeting them this early, but, like, okay, Stephenie Meyer said, plot's gonna start on page 1 of this 400+ page book. So, let's get reading. And the only reason I know that, because I did look ahead at my first folded down page, and I folded down the part where she meets them for the first time. Hi, I forgot her real name was actually Isabella. So I finished chapter 1, and I take back what I said about her writing, because it's still readable, but oh my god, after I said it, I swear to god, once the Cullens were introduced, it was so slow, and I was pushing myself to finish chapter 1. I'm like, I don't remember it being this not exciting. I don't remember so much happening so fast. Like, already she met the Cullens, which was a lot more underwhelming than it is in the movie. So the movies are very prevalent in my mind, but like the Cullens were just sitting there, and the story goes that Rosalie and Jasper are twins, and they're all adopted by Dr. Cullen and his wife, who cannot have children, and his wife is the aunt of Jasper and Hale. Jasper and Hale. His wife is the aunt of Jasper and Rosalie. Then we got to the part where she goes to biology too, and Edward has a fucking heart attack because she smells so good, but she doesn't know that's the reason yet. She just thinks he hates her for no reason. Mike is adorable, but like, why are all these boys so obsessed with Bella? Like she has more of a personality than the movies, but it's still not as exciting. So my only guess is that, wow, a new girl. Let's flirt with the new girl without actually knowing her. Because it's him and Eric. Flirting hardcore. We've met Jessica and Angela, and that's where we're at. She's on her way home, like, in tears, because Edward treats her like crap. And she went to the office to turn in her slip, and he's there, like, arguing, trying to switch his biology. But he can't, and he's glaring at her because he's a dick. That's where we're at before we start chapter 2, but wow, I had to plow through that. That was hard. Hopefully chapter 2 is more exciting. Okay, so it's been a few hours. I was gonna update you by page 100, but instead I'm updating you at page 80 because I just cannot fucking believe it. Bella said so much in these 80 pages, but like so little at the same time. She's dreaming about Edward because he saved her from the car crash, and now he wouldn't talk to her, but now they are talking, but that like dance is coming up. Also, I had no idea. I totally forgot this book actually takes place in the second semester of her junior year. The way it started, I'm thinking, oh, it's September. So I was so confused on why it was snowing. And I'm like, okay, it can't be snowing in September in Washington. And it's fucking March. That makes a lot more sense. In one school day, three, not one, not two, but 3 guys asked her to this fucking dance. Bella has like no personality. More than the movie, again, more than the movie. But she has, like, no personality. She is so bland and boring. And 3 guys asked her to this fucking dance. And then later in the series, 2 guys are going to be fighting for her love. The rest of us can't even get a text back. So does that mean we're boring? Like, are we even more boring and blander than Bella is? I am flabbergasted. Also, where did Tyler even come from? Like, we weren't even introduced to him until he almost ran Bella over, and now he's number 3 in this lineup of men who like her, and I'm like, what the fuck? Also, the insta-love. Oh my god, she keeps dreaming of Edward, and I don't get it. I forgot how hostile they are to each other in the beginning, and I'm like, I'm supposed to like root for this couple? Like, where is the book on Alice and Jasper? That is the real question. Honestly, I have to say though, my favorite thing about 3 fucking guys asking Bella in one day to go to this dance is that she is just as surprised as I am. Just as surprised as we all are, honestly. So 5 pages later, there are so many lines in this book that would not work today if this book was published today. Because literally in the beginning of the book, she comments that because Charlie's a cop, so he left the gun loaded because she made a comment that said he knows I'm old enough to not just randomly touch it and not depressed enough to kill myself with it. The person I am with depression. Depressed me kind of finds it morbidly hilarious, but I could see why that would not fly today. And then she made another comment. It's not a joke or anything, but because of Edward's moodiness and how he's constantly changing from like wanting to hang out with her to telling her to stay away from me to going back on his word on that, she literally asked him, do you have a multiple personality disorder? That's stereotyping. I'm sure there was another line that would not fly today. Oh, he talks to me like I'm mentally handicapped. We love when a book is published in 2005 and we read it 15 years later. Times have truly changed. Not that all these comments were okay back then. It's just what's acceptable to say versus what's not acceptable has clearly changed. My favorite line is when he calls, where is it? Now I have to find it. So he calls her absurd, and then Bella gets really mad about that. So he says, I'm sorry, that was rude. I'm not saying it isn't true, but it was rude to say it anyway. So I'm 110 pages in. I finished the chapter. I don't know if I'm going to continue reading tonight. It's 10:45 p.m. I'm hungry. And this book is dragging. I don't remember finding this book dragging when I was younger. I was so engrossed by it, like that I'm shocked how slow I think it is. Yeah, we're at the part where Bella faints at the sight of other people's blood because they're testing their blood type in their biology class, which leads me to ask, do schools still do that nowadays? Mine didn't. I know they used to do the blood type thing because I've heard the stories, and clearly it's in this book, so Stephanie Meyer must have, you know, experience with doing that in school, but my high school, we didn't do that. More things about this chapter, though. Edward's problematic. He's doing shit people always told me to beware of. He's trying to take Bella home, but Bella's like, no, I could do it. So he's literally dragging her by her coat. She's telling him, let me go, and he doesn't do it. Clearly enraged, like talking to her through his teeth, saying, you're too weak, you can't drive in your condition, I'll do it for you, stuff like that. And I'm like, ooh. Like, when men speak like that to me, I dip. Don't tell me what to fucking do. I don't really give a shit if it's for my own well-being. Don't talk to me like that. What did I see in this when I was 12? What does Bella see in him? Like, he's treating you like garbage. He laughs at her a lot, and like, she wonders if she's stupid, and I kind of don't blame her. But that also begs the question, like, why are you still talking to him if a guy makes you feel like that? Hi, so it's the next day. We've officially met Jacob. I'm still in the first chapter of the day. He's younger than I remember. I don't remember him being described as 14, 15 years old. Also, he has sisters. I forgot he had sisters, because the movies don't include that at all. But their names are Rachel and Rebecca, and they're married. So I finished the chapter, and Jacob tells Bella why the Cullens are not allowed on the reservation, and it's basically because the cold ones are enemies of the wolves, specifically men who turn into wolves. But since the Cullens hunt animals, not humans, his great-grandfather made a truce with them, that they're just not allowed on the reservation, or just their grounds in general. Even without, like, knowing the legends, I could see why this chapter would make people uncomfortable, because I was kind of questioning a little bit. So, like, Jacob is supposed to be, like, the representative of the tribe in this novel for us, right? He's telling these stories, and I hesitate to use the word mocking, because I don't think he was mocking, but it was clear he himself, like, didn't agree with the stories. He didn't believe them, because he was winking. He was using certain tones of voice. He even asked Bella, like, do you think I'm just another superstitious native? And I was like, oh, that line was a little cringy. Like, do you understand, like, what I'm trying to say? Because if you want to tell a story of another culture, why would you choose the representative to, like, not be proud, I guess, is what I'm looking for? Because it was weird just seeing Jacob. Like, it's, like, one thing not to literally believe stories, but it's another thing to, like, still respect them. So, I don't know. Like, Jacob's characterization here, it's like, shouldn't you, like, you should be proud of your culture. Like, don't mock your own stories. Don't ask people if you're just another superstitious native. That, like, if Stephanie Meyer was a Native American writer writing that line, that'd be one thing. But it's a white woman having her native characters say that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So we have folded down page number 2. I think I will keep count of these because I'm so intrigued why 12-year-old Dom thought these were so great. But I remember folding this down because Italian, and at the time I had like a huge Italian phase. Everything I did revolved around the Italian culture. So it says, Stregoni Benefici, an Italian vampire said to be on the side of goodness and a mortal enemy of all evil vampires. I think it's interesting that they are based off Italian vampires, and you know, the Volturi, the leaders, are Italian. I see you, Stephanie Meyer. I see that foreshadowing. And yeah, so these words, Stregoni Benefici, just means beneficial sorcerers. So, I'm on page 178. Where are we at? So, I read to you about the Stregoni Benefici, and since then, it's sunny outside, the Cullens aren't there. Why aren't they there? They always go on camping trips around this time, which I'm so shocked these excuses just fly over the teachers' heads, because, like, if I skipped school to go camping, that would not be an excused absence, but whatever, fantasy, we love to see it. Really, all that's happened is that after that, she went shopping with Jessica and Angela for dresses. She veered away from them to look for a bookstore, came across 4 men who wanted to do things with her. Edward saved her, then he took her out to a restaurant where the waitress is like head over heels for him, and he's telling her that he can read minds. He didn't admit he's a vampire yet, but he could read minds, and Bella just ate that shit up. That's one thing I gotta say. I hesitate to call her gullible, but she believes things so easily. Like, I just can't imagine if I was in this position, I would think anything of it. Like, if I met someone like the Cullens, I'd be like, oh, they're a little strange, but then go about my day. I wouldn't be researching fucking vampires. And if someone told me, hey, they're vampires, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then move on with my day. So, but again, if Bella wasn't this gullible, Gullible. Is gullible the word I want to use? If Bella wasn't like this, we wouldn't have a story. We wouldn't have a plot. So I guess she has to be like this. A lot of this book is told through dialogue. Some of it's important, but a lot of it is useless. Like, all that shit with the waitress. Maybe, like, one line of dialogue was needed, you know, just to prove the point that the waitress does find Edward, like, incredibly attractive. But not these, like, whole-ass conversations about food and shit. Like, that was all useless. I'm realizing this book is longer than it really needs to be. You know, once the Cullens are formally introduced and we get Alice and Jasper, I know it'll be better. I'll know I'll enjoy it more. I just have to push through a little bit. Now, it's 1:30 in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed because I want to film another movie reaction tomorrow. It's the title! I did not film my Catching Fire video today because I was just so angry about recent events that I just couldn't get myself to do anything for hours but just like scroll through Twitter and Facebook. But I started reading later at night, so I picked up the book around 10, like 3 hours ago, and I read 3 chapters. The first chapter, yes, we do indeed find out Edward is a vampire, and it is a lot less dramatic than the movie made it out to be, because, you know, the movie had that whole, like, say it out loud scene, you could feel your heart race. It's so over dramatic in the movie, whereas compared to the book, like, yeah, Edward had his moments where he's like, no, I am dangerous. But, like, in summary, he was pretty chill, and so was Bella. I don't know how she wasn't freaking out. Like, if some random person was like, hey, I'm a vampire, I'd be like, okay, but she's, like, perfectly okay with it. But, you know, more props to her, because if she was not okay with it, we would not have a series. That was my only observation, just how chill he was. And I liked the little conversation where she would, like, you know, she would bring up legends that we have in the real world, and he's like, no, that's a myth, like sleeping in the coffin and all that. So that was cute. Then the next chapter, they were sitting at lunch together, talking. They were just talking about what it's like to be a vampire, like his favorite things to hunt and all that. He was weirdly possessive. I don't know if it's, like, in an alarming way. Like, I don't know if he's alarmingly possessive, or if I'm just too independent for a guy like Edward. Like, the fact that he's like, oh, I always worry about you. Now I feel like I have to keep you safe at all times. You're making it like a full-time job. And it's like, dude, like, just let her live her life. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too independent for him, though. I don't really get it. So then the next chapter, so then it was his turn to ask questions. And I have to admit it was cute because he was asking, like, very minute things. Like, oh, what's your favorite color? What was your favorite part about Phoenix? That Bella was getting annoyed with and didn't really understand, but I thought it was cute when a guy wants to know the little things. Okay, Edward, you won me over there. I actually really like Jessica. I remember for some reason when I was younger I didn't like her. I thought she was annoying, but I do kind of like her now because I think, like, we all know someone like Jessica who wants to know all the boy tea. Like, I want to know all the boy tea. If you have tea on, like, the men you're dating, just dating anyone in general, if you just have dating tea, give it to me. I'll sip that shit up. And that's who Jessica reminds me of. So I love her. Mike is really fucking annoying. He does remind me of, like, a lost puppy. And he's possessive, too. Like, he's really mad at, like, he's literally mad at Bella for dating Edward right now. Because he was like, oh, he looks like he wants to eat you. And, like, you know, we, like, the audience knowing Edward's a vampire, yeah, that's, like, kind of morbidly funny. But it's like, dude, you follow her around like a lost puppy. And you're possessive of her, too. So it's like, are you really that much better? We're almost halfway through the book. I really wanted to be on page 300 by now, but what can you do? Billy and Jacob Black are at Bella's house right now. That's it. Like, the chapter literally ended with the car pulling in and Billy being scared. And Bella's like, oh my god, he believes the stories. So that's where we're at. I got nothing else to say about that. Other than the facts, Stephanie Meyer really likes these characters to sigh. They're constantly sighing. And it's throwing me back to my writing days, because, like, I was rereading shit I wrote in 7th grade, and first of all, cringy, but my characters were always fucking sighing. Why? Why is everyone sighing? I don't understand. Now that we officially know Edward is a vampire, I am getting more into the story. So, I'm gonna go to bed. Hopefully I could film the Catching Fire video tomorrow. I don't know. And I still have yet to watch Season 4 of Legend of Korra. I finished Season 3 on my birthday, which was 5 days ago. Made me cry. Season 3 finale made me cry. I burst into tears. But I have to start Season 4, because I heard that season was pretty good too. It's been 2 days since I last saw you. So, you know how I said I was going to watch only like 2 episodes of Legend of Korra? I watched 5. Season 4 is okay. Kuvira just reminds me of another Azula. She's just an adult earthbending Azula. We'll see where it goes, because I have not watched anything since 2 days ago. I spent 4 hours in the Catching Fire reaction video, and I only have the first 30 minutes of the movie itself edited, and it's only like the first 5 minutes of said video, and I was like, oh shit. And I read yesterday, just not a lot, because I just wasn't in the mood for reading. And then I ended up watching a movie. It was called Fatima. I think my parents pronounce it Fatima, but I thought it was pronounced Fatima, because it's based on it's one of those based on a true story, Jesus is real type of movies. I knew the story growing up. If you don't know the story of Fatima, this has nothing to do with Twilight, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, because I have a part I just read and it reminds me of that. So if you don't know the story of Fatima, in 1917, Fatima, Portugal, these 3 kids were shepherding. They were shepherds. And then on May 13th, I think it was May 13th, and then on May 13th they got a vision of the Virgin Mary, and she gave them predictions, she gave them visions. There's a thing called the miracle of the sun, which was to prove her existence. It's a huge thing in the Catholic faith, and I think Christian faith in general. And the 2 youngest died during the Spanish influenza, and they have been canonized, so they are the youngest non-martyr saints. And then the oldest, she lived until she was 97, and she is currently in the process of being canonized, the last I read. And what why that reminds me of Twilight, so now we're gonna move on to Twilight. Edward took Bella to the meadow rather than going to Seattle, and we find out he sparkles in the sun. And he told her how he really felt when she first walked in, how like he actually wanted to kill her because her blood like spoke to him, and it took a lot of self-restraint. Like he visited friends in Alaska to deal with his emotions. The true reason why he saved her was basically because he loves her. And now they're on their way back. To her house, and he's telling her about his life. He was born. It's a folded page, so that's why I'm here again. So it's a folded page because he's from Chicago. That's why I folded it. I'm like, oh my god, me and Edward from the same place. But he's from Chicago, born in 1901, and Carlisle bit him in 1918 when he was dying of the Spanish influenza. And it's like, hey, I just watched a movie where the people died of the Spanish influenza. So that's where we're at. I folded 3 pages in a row, so I will just update that as we go. I want this book done. I want this book on my August wrap-up. Not my September, but my August. But I have half of the book left. So I'm just gonna read all day. We got this. Read half of what I have left today, and then the other half tomorrow. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'll force it to happen. So I read through my other folded pages, and it's basically just Alice and Jasper. That's why I folded them down. But we learned about the past lives of the other vampires. So Carlisle was the one who turned Edward. Esme fell off a cliff, and then she was brought to a morgue, but her heart was still beating, so that's why Carlisle bit her. Rosalie, he bit next, but, you know, we're not going to know Rosalie's backstory until Eclipse. And then Emmett was next, because Rosalie saved him from a bear fight, basically, which... that's very on brand for Emmett, honestly. And it's ironic because, you know, now he likes bears. Like Edward said that bears are Emmett's favorite to drink from. So, and then Alice and Jasper joined them later. Jasper was part of another family, and again, we're not going to know what that is until Eclipse. So that was the page I folded down. It was like their introduction, Alice and Jasper. And then the other one I folded down was Alice's backstory, because she has no backstory because she doesn't remember her human life. And that's some tea, and we find out more about it in this book, but if you want to know her whole story, I recommend getting the Twilight Illustrated Guide, because Stephanie Meyer goes into detail about every character's life in that book, and because Alice's life is so minimal in the main series, she went into huge detail in the Illustrated Guide. Like, it's the longest one, and it's cool. So I finished one more chapter. So Stephanie Meyer is very openly Mormon, which nothing wrong with that, obviously, but she has said she puts her Mormon values into her books, so there's like no underage drinking, there's like no sex before marriage, so not even Mormon values. Like, I feel like that's just values in general. Sex before marriage, you can argue, but like Christian values in general. And it really came out in this chapter. This chapter must have went right over my head as a kid, because I'm reading this. She was talking about how like Rosalie and Emmett like constantly get married every few years to keep up with appearances. And she's like, is marriage the same as for like humans? And Edward's like, yeah, you know, we have human desires sometimes. And then she was like, do you think of me that way? He went on that whole rant about how he can't do anything with Bella because he fears he's going to hurt her by accident. The same rant we hear over and over again in Eclipse. She asked once again, like, in a matter of speaking, do you think of me that way? Am I attractive in that sense? And he's like, I may not be human, but I am a man. And I'm like, literally, like, this hurt to read almost. Because I'm like, why? It would have been easier to read if you had just said the word sex. Like, they were obviously dancing around the word sex and just calling it human desires or that, but like, italicized. Why was 12-year-old me reading this, first of all? Like, I would not have understood that part of the chapter when I was 12. But I'm like, dude, just use the fucking word. I hate when they, like, dramatize the concept of sex. And of course, we have to think about when this book was published. It was published in 2005. 2005 versus 2020, yeah, like, it was only 15 years difference. But our like, ideals and acceptance of sex have obviously still changed over that time. But still, I'm like, oh my god, just use the word. It is really not that taboo. But the next chapter is about the Cullens. We're going to meet them. I have a folded down page, and I'm pretty sure it's when Alice and Jasper make their entrance, because I loved Alice as a kid. I wanted her to be my best friend, and I shipped toward Jasper so hard. So I'm going to take like a 5-minute break to make more coffee, and then I will get back to reading. So she has officially met Carlisle, Esme, Alice, and Jasper. Rosalie and Emmett are nowhere to be found, because Rosalie, like, said fuck you to Bella, basically. And there's a cross in their hallway. I thought it was kind of funny because they could just have a cross, and Edward himself says it's kind of ironic. Because, like, according to, like, the ancient legends or, like, the myths that we all typically follow, don't like, vampires run away from crosses? So I thought that was kind of a cool little flip of the myth, if you will. So it's the end of the chapter, and we get Carlisle's story that I completely forgot about. So Carlisle was born in the 1640s in London, that he believes, because time was, like, irrelevant back then. His father was a very angry Anglican pastor, I should say. So he was trying to kill all the monsters. Carlisle did the raids, and he was smarter than his father, so he was actually able to find the monsters and not burn innocent people. And then a scared vampire who was ancient and weak attacked him, and knowing that his father would be angry and burn him at the stake as well, he hid himself, and now he's a vampire. He's 23. I'm 23. I'm Carlisle's age. I forgot how young Carlisle and Esme actually are, because I think, if I remember correctly, Esme's only like 3 years older than he is, meaning she's 26. So they really, really aged them up in the movies. Like, there's no way Peter Facinelli and Elizabeth, whatever her last name is, are in their 20s when they filmed that. No way. I mean, of course, none of the others were teenagers as well, because if I remember correctly, like, Alice is 19, Jasper's like maybe 20. None of them are that young. So, 23. I am as old as Carlisle. I cannot imagine adopting 5 kids at 23. So he's a better person than I am. This also just proves the point that the side characters have more interesting backgrounds than Bella and Edward. I want to know more about the side characters. I didn't need Midnight Sun. I needed a story on Alice and Jasper. I needed a story on Rosalie and Emmett. Carlisle as a human would be cool. Carlisle and Esme, because Esme does not have a huge role in these books, and really neither does Emmett. She could have done so much with these side characters and not do Midnight Sun. I do not need to read Twilight 3 times. Will I? Yes, because I'm rereading Twilight. I'm gonna read Life and Death, and I'm gonna read Midnight Sun, but like... Okay, so the next chapter was just Carlisle. It was more about his past, and I had 2 folded pages. The first one I folded simply because he lived in Italy. Y'all know my love for Italy. But the Volturi were mentioned, but just not like as the Volturi. It was just Myro. Wow. It was just Marcus, Arrow, and Caius. So they weren't called Volturi, but they were called Carlisle's friends. And I completely forgot Stephanie Meyer dropped that hint in the beginning. We love foreshadowing. And then my next folded page was because Edward showed Bella his room. Has a huge musical library that he organizes by year. Can't relate to that. Alice and Jasper came in, and Alice said it sounded like you were having Bella for lunch. Mind if we join you, or something like that. And I thought that was hilarious. And now they're about to play baseball, which in the movie is peak cinematic experience. Oscars could never. So I'm excited to read about it. And we know this is when, like, James, Victoria, and Laurent come. We love the tea. You know what's kind of annoying about this book? Like, everything Bella does always turns into some melodramatic lesson from Edward. Like, they were kissing right before the baseball game, and she wrapped his hands around him. And, you know, he's still a little scared because blood, vampire, she smells good, he's trying to get used to her, blah, blah, blah. He freaks out, he's mad at her, and then, like, later he makes a joke on her expense. She's mad at him, and he's like, don't be mad. She's like, why are you allowed to be mad? Like, why not me? And he's like, I'm not mad at you, don't you see that? And now he's about to go on some long-winded rant about how he's a vampire, can't help himself, we need to be careful. And I'm like, dude, this is high-key annoying. Not everything has to be a fucking melodramatic lesson. I just want the baseball game. Go Cubs. I'm officially past page 430 out of 498. James, he's a tracker. He's really attracted to Bella's blood. He's like, I'm gonna get her. So the Cullens are trying to protect her. Emmett, Edward, and Carlisle are on the hunt together. Rosalie, who's a little bitch, and Esme are protecting Charlie. In the scene where Bella had to leave Charlie, was really sad. I felt really bad for him. He is such an underrated parent in YA literature. Alice and Jasper took Bella to Phoenix. They're in a hotel. We're at the part where James called her, pretended to be her mom. He's like, you need to say this, you need to say this. Meet me at the ballet studio, basically. And my one question is, granted, the book is a lot faster paced now, and I can't stop reading, but my question is, because of the supersonic hearing vampires have, shouldn't have Alice, because Jasper's checking out right now, so shouldn't have Alice, like, heard that conversation? Like, I know Bella went to another room, but still, like, at least hear Bella's words, which I guess is the point of, like, telling her what to say, but couldn't she have heard him on the cell phone, like, before Bella went to the next room? Like, can't she see Bella's decision? Unless I'm getting to that part and just don't know it. But those are my questions. I'm going to finish the book today, whether it's the last thing I do, because it's the last day of August, and this is going to be on my August wrap-up. And I have to pay off a student loan now that I said it's the last day of August, so thank you for reminding me of that. So I've read 2 more chapters. Turns out Alice does get a vision. She can't see Bella, but it was, like, weird. She attributed the vision to James and not Bella herself, so that's why she wasn't suspicious when Bella said peace out at the airport to get food. In reality, she escaped through the bathroom. She gets to her house, then she gets to the ballet studio. Turns out James was lying. Her mom's not actually in danger. And then James attacks her. But we also find out Alice's past, which, like, I already knew going into this, and I'm still upset the movies never touched on this at all. Turns out James knew Alice when Alice was a human. Alice was in an asylum because she could see visions, and there was a vampire working there. And basically, Alice's blood was to James like Bella's blood is to Edward. The vampire realized James wanted to eat her, and then he turned Alice into a vampire to protect her. And James makes a comment like, yeah, this vampire was braver than what your Edward is, because Edward won't even turn you, blah, blah, blah. And then we just read the chapter where they're trying to suck the venom out of her hand because James bit her hand. And I'm realizing the movie is so much more melodramatic than this book is. Like, yeah, Edward was really, really scared he wasn't going to be able to suck the venom, but then he did it no problem. In the movie, he's freaking out. And then you see him, you have this dramatic music, the dramatic fire in the background. They zoom in on Robert Pattinson's face as he's, like, sucking up the venom. And it's getting to the point where he's even sucking the blood. And they're like, Edward, you gotta stop. And I'm like, this never fucking happens in this book. Meeting the Cullens wasn't as dramatic. There were just so many other scenes where that wasn't as dramatic. Like when she found out Edward was a vampire, nowhere near as dramatic as the movie. Seeing him sparkle was just a chill kind of day. Whereas in the movie, he's like having a heart attack over it. He's like, this is what I am. And then, whereas in like the book, he was like, yeah, this is what I am. So yeah, so I was expecting this to be a lot more dramatic than it was because the movie has plagued my mind so much, but it is not. And I'm going to pause. I have 50 pages left, but we're going to pause because Target has my order ready. It's time to pick it up. Wear your mask when you're outside. And then we'll get back to reading. I'm probably going to eat dinner and watch Legend of Korra and then get back to reading, but I'm determined to get this book done tonight. I will not touch my half-edited Catching Fire video until this book is done. I finished this book. And so, Bella goes to the hospital after that attack, and it turns out Edward did say sucking the venom out was very, very difficult, but just, again, not as melodramatic as the movie makes it out to be. She talked to her mom's moving to Florida. She thought Bella was going to go with her, but Bella is not, and she was kind of disappointed in that and blamed Edward. Then they had this long discussion about turning her into a vampire, and Edward's like, I don't want to do that, you need to live as a human, which I just don't understand his logic, because I understand, like, he's like, I want you to live as a human, I don't want to take away those experiences from you, but then he's like, without you, I will kill myself, and I'm like, what do you think's gonna happen when she fucking dies if you don't bite her? But whatever, I'm not a melodramatic 17-year-old boy. So then in the epilogue, they go to prom. For some reason, Bella was surprised they were going to prom. Their prom sounds really cute. It sounds like your average school dance because their prom's in their gym. My prom was at a hotel because over like almost 2,000 people went to my prom. Jacob was there. He said, Billy wants you to break up with your boyfriend. Jacob was embarrassed to do that. Other things, they had a long conversation about biting her, turning her into a vampire. Tyler went to go pick her up, and she obviously wasn't there, and she called Tyler delusional because she's like, my dude, I've been hanging out with Edward all the time. And then it ended with Edward kissing her neck, and we are done. Final thoughts. Lots of sighing in this fucking book. Everyone fucking sighs. Character tags are character tags that should not exist, because she'll put, I'm sorry, I apologize, and it's like, dude, all you have to do is say, I'm sorry, I said, or just, I'm sorry. I forgot how much the story was told through dialogue, and it's a lot of info dumping. We get everyone's past in this book, or not everyone's, we get a simplified version of Rosalie and Jasper's, but everyone else's past, we just get it in our face. I believe in New Moon, while Alice is gone, she does look more into her past, because the movies completely ignore it, so, and because the movies are so prevalent in my mind, I kind of forgot, like, what exactly happens with Alice's past, or path here. I don't really have any more final thoughts, other than, like, it's not a 5 out of 5 star read anymore, unfortunately. 3 stars, it's like, it's no more than 3, it's no less than 3 stars. Twice now. Twice, someone said I love you, and the other responded I know.
I love you.
I know.
Thanks for being on this journey with me. I'm looking forward to the other books. I was nostalgic reading this, and it gave me a lot of memories from middle school and kind of high school, because some of the things that Bella did I like related to later. I read this in middle school, hence the middle school memories, but Bella's in high school, so hence the high school memories. And I'm sure more will be coming in the other books. So look forward to the other vlogs. Thanks for watching. Give a big thumbs up. Subscribe, comment, whatever, and I will see you guys later. Ciao a tutti!